Hi, Church. Pastor Jeff here with another Trinity Check In, up close and personal today with my computer monitor and I, because this is a special Trinity Check In. It is a building update and a significant one at that. You know, the idea when Trinity first moved out here to Village Gardens around 2010 was to build a sanctuary eventually, and now that we've pretty clearly outgrown the space that we have, we've been in those conversations, and last week we had a major meeting to make a recommendation to the church about what to do next. And this video is the first attempt to take that information and give it to all of you. Now, I'm going to give you a lot of information in the video today, and I'll bet you I hit 15 minutes. So that's longer than I usually try to go with these, but I promise it will be worth it and it's important. I will tell you, though, that my next task after finishing this video is to put it in print form. We're actually going to put it on our webpage so that we can send out links and we can print copies for people that want it on paper. And so if you want to, you don't need to take notes, is what I'm saying. You're going to get it another way. But I'm going to start by sharing it today, in part because it's more personal and in part because it helps to point. That's why, as I said, I'm up close and personal with the monitor. So let's begin. This is the process of a building that's in our United Methodist Book of Discipline. That's our rule book of how we stay disciplined as a church, as a denomination. We began with a study committee. We then had a vote to begin the process at all. That vote allowed us to hire an architect and begin having conversations about what a new building might look like. And that's what we've been doing over the past 6 months or so. We've developed preliminary plans, and right now we are here. Now, as the process goes on, there needs to be a full church vote to say, yes, you're on the right track. Let's keep going. At that point, we would develop full plans and then have another final church vote that's the actual go-ahead. That's the actual go grab your shovels vote. But right now, we have preliminary plans developed, and we're ready for that middle vote where the church has an opportunity to say, we like what you've been doing, we're behind it, let's continue on and build on and continue building plans to the next step. So that's where we are right now. Now, I'll give you a spoiler alert here. The recommendation is to pause just a little bit, and I think you'll see why when we get there. In fact, I think there's a lot of, I'm going to call it hopeful wisdom. But let me give you the pieces of the puzzle first so that you can better understand. First of all, I want to say a thank you to everybody on our building committee and on church council. This is a picture of the meeting we had last week, and it was great. It was two committees together. We had about 25 people total. That meant we had to have it in the youth room because we don't have any other room that can hold that number of people, which kind of highlights why we need to build, right? But anyway, I just wanted to say a thank you, and particularly to Joshua Berry and Neil Claiborne, the chairs of those two committees, for leading us and for guiding us. So, okay, let's get into the actual building part. This is the satellite view taken off. I believe I got that one off Apple Maps just because the grass was greener. It looked nicer at the time. And you can see our current building here, and you can see the labyrinth that's just north of the building. What we're talking about is taking this part of the building. So when you first come in, there's the gathering area before you go into Spirit Hall. That's right here. And so we're talking about extending that northward and then building the sanctuary here like this. The labyrinth would have to move. Believe me, we would not go without a labyrinth. It's a little too important. Just ask anybody who eats at 402 Creamery. It is a wonderful thing out there. But that exact spot is probably about where the sanctuary would go. So when they were making the plans for our current building around 2008, this is what they envisioned, and it's neat to see these and get excited. Now, I'll tell you, we've tweaked a little bit since then, but we don't have 3D renderings yet. So this is the current building up to about here. So this is Spirit Hall, and just like we're planning now, extend it out and then build a sanctuary over here. The original plans kind of had a freestanding steeple structure. Here's another view of that. You can see the current building here in the back, the envisioned sanctuary here, and the freestanding steeple. I'm going to kind of rotate up towards the top in these renderings because the next step is to look at it from the top down. This is what was originally pictured when the current building was built. Now, everybody knew we'd have to change that a little bit, but it's enough to get the dreams going, and that's part of why I want to share it today too. So here's Spirit Hall, as you can see. So extend it northward, put a sanctuary up here, and of course rooms down below. If you look at this closely, you can tell that that they didn't build it exactly like this plan was anyway. There are already some significant differences. But we began with this in our process, the building committee did, and the architects, and thanks to BVH, the architects we've been working with, Cleve and Adam, are awesome, and they rock, and they have been a tremendous help. They first came back with two options. One of them was to have a courtyard, very similar to the original plan, though with a couple of key differences that I think improve it. Expand the gathering area northward like that, and then kind of have a 45-degree angle into a sanctuary. Another idea that they said was what they called the connect option, and that was to bring it down and have a larger fellowship area in the middle. To do that would require moving the columbarium, which is possible. The columbarium is technically portable. If you watch them put the columbarium in place, you realize that they have a different definition of portable than most of us do, but it could be done, right? So here's the options that we first saw. We went through several. We had a hybrid option we worked with for a while, but we kind of ended with this one. We also realized we were going to outpace our budget, and so we pared back some of our priorities that were further down the list, and this is what we ended up with. So it's pretty similar. Now, don't pay any attention to the drawings of chairs or the layout in the sanctuary. They said that that's really just there so that we know what that is on the map, to identify it as a sanctuary. That's not necessarily how we'd lay it out. In fact, I'd change several bits my own self. But we'd be able to keep the columbarium as it is. We'd move the entry just north a little bit. You can see there. On the lower level, I haven't really talked about that yet. What we would do there is add 6 classrooms for the child care. Right now, our before and after school program has been wonderful, but they kind of don't have a home. So 2 of those rooms would go to before and after school. The other 4 would be adding more rooms than we have now. We have a paid waiting list on our child care. Most people don't even bother paying to get on it. There's no question we could fill those rooms quickly. Now, if you want to think about how this would be downstairs, you come in the door and you take a right. This is the door off the parking lot. You come in the right and you go down the hall where the stairs are, and there's the elevator down there. Well, imagine you dug out past that. That's where this would be. You'd go down this hall into those rooms. Now, I'm going to turn this sideways here just so we can zoom in on the widescreen monitor and you can see a bit better. So you'd come in, well, here's the doors. You'd come in, and then you would go down this hallway. The elevator is right here, so you just keep going down, and these rooms here would be overlooking the parking lot. Now, one thing the architects suggest is an atrium. So move the stairway a little bit, they say, and they showed us a couple of examples, envisioned a really nice atrium kind of entry here. And when you go up to the second floor, there's the top of that and a nice area for fellowship here before going into the sanctuary, as well as some rooms here, a soft wall that could be opened up so that this would be a little bit larger space, if you had one of those meetings with 25 people in it or something like that. So it's a good plan, and it's exciting to see and to envision. It's exciting to go outside and stand and just imagine what it might look like, even if we haven't extended these. What I think the words the architects used were push it into 3D. We haven't envisioned yet what it would look like more than just lines on a map, but it's still exciting. Okay. So at this point in the process, we brought in Samson, the builders, and for a cost estimate. That's something that they did for us for free, in hopes of getting our business, of course, and we would bid it around, and they expect that. But all the same, it's kind of them to do that. And they really picked it apart and did their best estimate of what it would cost to build, and this is the number that they came up with. It is a high number, just barely below $12 million, and that's after we pared it back. Now, one benefit of that number is that the attempt was to include everything. It includes 10% contingency. It includes all the furnishings, which a lot of times estimate numbers do not include chairs or pews. They don't include tables, things that you have to get. And it also includes a year and a half of cost escalation, since they know it would be at least a little while before we were to build. Now, it's helpful to break this out as we think about ways forward. Of that amount that Samson tells us, the sanctuary is just under 9 million of it, and the classrooms are just under 3 million of it. That's how it breaks down. Okay, so if you're trying to make a funding plan in your head, that's the cost side. So what about the paying side, the money side of how we're going to pay for it? For that, we brought in Horizon Stewardship. They are a company that is, well, it's not officially United Methodist related, but like most of the consultants are United Methodist, so they're close friends of many United Methodist churches, and I've come to trust them over the years. Very smart when it comes to fundraising, and the process that they have is one that has proven itself time and time again. The first thing that they did was compare to look at our attendance and our giving patterns. We gave them some of our records, and they put it together, and I will tell you, it looks very good. We're a little bit isolated here at Trinity, and we forget that most churches have not recovered from the pandemic. Their attendance hit a huge dip during the pandemic and never came back up, or at least not very much at all. Most churches also had a big hit to their income during the pandemic that also has not fully rebounded. Ours has, on both counts, and it's a sign of a strong and resilient church. Now, if you attend 1030, that might seem a little strange to you, because 1030 has seen at least a little bit closer to that pattern. We've also had a number of funerals come out of the 1030 service. However, the 9 o'clock service is bursting at the seams. This is summer. You all don't know what a summer slump is. Churches always have a dip in attendance during the summer, but at 9 o'clock, we had to set up chairs last Sunday. This is July. Like I said, you all don't know what a summer slump is, and it's awesome. Makes me a little nervous even for fall, because if this is what summer is looking like, I'll bet we're going to have big numbers at 9 o'clock, especially this fall. Either way, my point is, from a fundraising point of view, it's a sign of a robust and healthy church. We sent out a survey, and we got 79 responses. Now, obviously, that doesn't include children, or some of those are probably household responses, not individual. 79 is actually a pretty good number of responses, so we can be pretty confident about the result. One of the questions was, is building the right next step for Trinity? Get this. 93% of you answered either yes or definitely yes. 93%. That is a high number. That is a very high number. So all of us believe that this is the right next step for Trinity. There's a strong sense of that. The question. No, there's more questions than I'm showing you here. I'm giving you the short version. But this question is one of those strategic ones that survey writers throw in because they can learn something from it. Not a trick question. I wouldn't call it that. But the question is, are you willing to work? Like, are you willing to serve on a committee or something like that to be part of a fundraising effort, specifically a fundraising effort? Now, if somebody says yes to serving on a committee for a fundraising effort, you know they're serious, right? If they're willing to work, that means they're willing to put skin in the game and that they really believe in the project. Are you ready for this? 76% said that they were willing to at least consider working on a committee for a fundraising effort. That is a lot. That is a very high moment, and it impressed Norma, the consultant that we've been working with. She drew a lot of attention to that one. So you all believe in this. You all are behind it. There's no question about that. There is excitement in the church, and we have statistics, good ones, to back it up. Now, the other part of it is, it's early. You all when you all answered the survey, you hadn't seen any of the plans yet or anything like that. All you'd seen was the case statement, the early document that we put together. So take this for what it is. But what is the question was something like what would you see your level of giving being to the project? Now, the consultant takes those early gift estimates. Takes the percentage of the church, like projects it out in a way that consultants are good at and I am not, to try to come up with a number of what we could expect to raise. And the answer they came up with was $850,000 to $1.2 million. And I will tell you, compared to the $12 million you saw a couple of screens ago, that seems a little on the low side, doesn't it? Now, there is reason to believe that's low. This is designed to be a safe number. And in fact, as we dig into how the number is calculated, we're glad it's there. We're glad we have it, and it is solid. However, we're pretty sure the Trinity folks would beat 1.2 million actually doing a campaign. We're pretty sure Trinity folks would beat it. By how much, it's hard to say, but we feel quite confident we could raise 1.2 million and are pretty sure we could raise more than that. So, what are our options for getting to 12? How can we do it? How can we get there? This is what we sat down with at that meeting the other night. We received all of this information and put the pieces together. So, on the one side, did I hit the wrong? What did I do? Okay, it's back. On the first off, we do have the possibility of a capital campaign, which would raise 1.2 million, probably more. We'll put that number on there for now. We have an idea for how the child care might be able to contribute and support the classroom wing. Not fully through all of the process yet. For now, I'll put the number on here of what that wing would cost from the builders. I will tell you that the plan we have, that's a little bit of a stretch. It might be a little bit lower what we'd be able to do with the plan that we're thinking now. But for the sake of back of envelope here, we'll put it here on the screen. One of the big question marks is unexpected gifts. We know that there are people at Trinity who to whom this church is especially dear and who really want to see this project happen. And one thing that often happens when you have a campaign like this, especially with a church like Trinity, with people like Trinity's, is that people come forward wanting to give lead gifts. And I call them lead gifts because they inspire the rest of us. It's somebody saying, I believe so much in this project that I want to give a large amount, and it's a lead gift. It inspires the rest of us to step up more too. Now, obviously, we have no idea what to expect in that department. Depending on how lead gifts were to come in, that could make the difference of it would make the difference of when we were able to build. So I'll just say this right here. If any of you are in a position to give that kind of a gift and have that kind of belief in what we're doing here, please talk to me or talk to any of our finance folks on our committees. We would like to hear from you. We'd like to share more plans and to know more about what you're thinking. If we go ahead with the campaign, then we'll be coming to you. We'll be coming to everybody in the church asking these kinds of questions. But if you'd like to talk now, it would be helpful to know. And so I would invite those conversations. Now, the other piece of any funding plan would be financing. In fact, we would expect that. We would expect not to do one capital campaign, but 3 in all likelihood. Capital campaigns are usually 3 years, and building a building, you usually do 3 of them. And you would want to see about 40% of the total in the initial one. So we're not quite there. It's not to say we couldn't be. It's not to say we couldn't get there, depending on how things come in, but we're not quite there now. Talking to Brian Shank at UBT, who is a great friend of Trinity and a parent alum of Trinity Child Care and a dedicated one. I think he still buys about half the butter braids that we sell every year. He gave us some information on UBT, and I know finding financing was a difficult thing when the current building was built. That would not not be the case now. In fact, UBT is eager to help us. They had a good experience last time. They've expanded the church lending that they do in general, and so there's no worry there. It's just a matter of getting the pieces to add up to the right amount, and they would be able to help us when the time comes. One of the challenges is that the best practice is that to start building, you probably want to have about at least 30% cash on hand. And if we're talking $12 million, that's $4 million just to start construction, even with a plan to raise the rest. So we've got a little ways to go. Now, here's my story. I went into this meeting a little bit dejected. I'm sitting here in this office looking at this very screen, as a matter of fact, and all of this information came in just a few days' time. It was a whirlwind of a week, and I'm just sitting here in my my lonely little office. Oh, it isn't lonely. There's people out, but you know what I mean. And I'm seeing this information, and I'm feeling a little bit dejected. I'm shaking my head thinking, I don't know how we can do it. We need it, but I don't know how we can do it. There would have been every right for the people at that meeting last week to go around and think, I don't know how we're going to do it. We just can't do it. I don't know how we can do it. But that's not the attitude they had. The attitude they had was, oh, there's got to be a way. We need this. It's the right thing. And it's not just us. Look at the enthusiasm that we see from that survey. This is the right thing. We just haven't found the answer yet. And they restored my hope, having seen these numbers roll in as the week went on. So here's what we decided to recommend to the church. Now, I say we. I actually didn't have a vote in this case, so I'm talking about church council and building committee. Here, remember the building timeline. Here's where we are. We're right here. We have the preliminary plans together, and we're ready for the church to vote on whether or not to continue. We are potentially at that point, except for the fact that the numbers don't quite add up yet. So, are you ready for this? I spent more time than I care to admit making this happen. Here we go. That's the recommendation from Church Council and Building Committee, that we stretch this timeline out a little bit and start saving. In other words, let's go ahead and launch into a capital campaign, ask our members to give, and in effect, it's a stepping out in faith. We're not ready to build yet, but we're going to go ahead and start giving towards this because we know that we are going to be ready to build, even if we're not quite there yet. I don't know. I've got a metaphor in mind, and I haven't totally decided if I like it or if it goes a bad place eventually, but I'm going to share it with you. It reminds me a little bit of when you save up for your first home and you have to have a down payment. And saving up for that down payment is part of the journey. It's part of showing that you have the financial discipline to put to put enough pennies together to make that down payment. And it's just part of it. And that's not exactly what we're doing here, but it strikes me as a good metaphor, because what we need to do, what could make those numbers work, is to begin the process and start saving, even if it's going to be a few years before we can move on to that next vote and to moving on with the process. So that is the recommendation from our church council and building committee jointly. And we have a church conference scheduled for August 18. Now that's Sunday, August 18 at 11:30. So our services are 9 and 10:30. So after second service, we will have that. And if you go to second service, I hope you'll stick around. If you come to first service, I hope that you'll hang out or do something. We ought to have something for you to do around here. There's some extra coffee or something. We'll have to talk about that, but we'll put it together and vote on that recommendation from church council and the building committee. You know what? I fully expect this church conference to be just as hopeful as that meeting was the other night. I am all the more convinced that God is doing something here, that God is in the process, and that God has things in store here that at this point we can only sense. But isn't it exciting to see it unfold? Okay, as I said, my next step is to take this information and to put it into a web page on our website that we can also print. That way we can get this information to more, but the video is the easiest to record, so we're starting there. I do hope you'll send me your questions or your thoughts or your inspiration or whatever it may be. If you receive this by email, just hit reply. It'll come straight to me, and I always read and respond when those come through. If you see it on Facebook, leave a comment. comment or contact me in some other way. I'd like to end this video, long as it's been, with a prayer, but I don't want to do the prayer here. Now, I've got my camera set up on a tripod here. Give me just a minute to get my camera into handheld mode, and then, together, let's go out there and say a prayer in the spot where the building will be. As we walk past the bell that called the first members of Trinity to worship in the 1800s, as we look at the spot where the classrooms would be built into the side of the hill, and as we wind up standing right around where the sanctuary will one day be, let us pray. Oh God, we give you thanks for all that you've done with Trinity over the almost century and a half. We give you thanks to the life you've given your people here. And we pray that you would give us wisdom, that you would give us trust, and that you would give us hope in this moment of deciding what to do, what the next best step is for our church. Please be in our hearts, inspire us, but most of all, I come back to hope. Because it's not even about a building. It's about what you're continuing to do in our lives. It's about the lives you are continuing to touch. It's about the generations that you will touch in the future. We pray it and thank you that we are blessed to be a part of it. We pray it in your holy name. Amen.